Would Tony Soprano be convicted if Carlo Gervasi flipped?
Did you talk to Mink again?
It's Carlo. He's gonna testify.
This is what life is still like at our age?
So, after everything we've covered, who prevails, the government or Tony?
Murder and 8 of racketeering.
20 to life.
But Neil has quite a lot to work with in terms of cross-examination of Carlo, particularly concerning his motives for testifying.
Ladies and gentlemen, Soprano is not being persecuted by the government, but a ruthless and calculating mob boss who controls a vast criminal enterprise. Bid rigging.
Dick's looking for you! Hey, Tony! I just heard from Triborough Towers. The Kohler brothers withdrew their bid.
That's good.
Sweetheart deals.
Well, here's something I never thought I'd say. To the federal government.
Depends on which department.
Secret payoffs.
Sure ended a demonstration bust-up.
And even murder. Even if Massarone and 1,000 other snitches pan out, we've still got to put Tony on trial. That's useless until we find out how they penetrated the anonymous jury system.
Listen, Danny, we just want you to know how glad we are a guy like you was on that jury. That mob thing. Hard-working guy, wife and 2 kids, performing a civic duty we should all take part in.
But we don't necessarily need Eugene for juror intimidation. What about, say, Benny Fazio?
I don't know anything about any fucking Vespers.
We know they got here. What happened to them?
I don't know. I wasn't here.
Federal courts have adopted a wide range of procedures to help make sure that jurors are protected from threats or harassment in high-profile cases, keeping them at secret hotels and transporting them to and from the courthouse in a variety of locations and in a variety of vehicles to try to keep their identity and their whereabouts unknown. With John Gotti, in the 1992 trial, the jury was completely sequestered and anonymous.
Was guilty of the murder of Paul Castellano, of the murder of Robert DiBernardo, guilty, of the murder of Louis Melito, guilty, and of the murder of Louis de Bono, guilty. It's a litany that could mean life in prison for John Gotti, and Jim Dolan has been in Brooklyn federal court ever since the trial began 7.5 weeks ago. Jim?
Bill, 12 courageous New Yorkers today put away their fears and waded through the confusion and decided in the end that John Gotti was telling the truth. On the secretly recorded audio tapes played at the trial, Gotti himself boasted that he was the boss of the Gambino crime family. Gotti himself bragged that he ordered several murders. The jury decided to take him at his word.
Tony says that 80% of the time, you end up in the can like Johnny Sack or on the embalming table at Cosarelli's.
No risk, no reward.
But how does Tony really feel about these prospects?
I could be going away for a very long time.
How does that make you feel?
Maybe you should lamb chop it for a while, huh?
Keep the suitcase in my trunk.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Hey, fuck all yous. Fucking bygones are never bygones.
This is a fucking nightmare. I'm gonna have to move some cash around. If I'm gonna lamb it, I'm going with a fucking package. I'm not gonna be like Mickey Masuko. That poor prick, he had 5 fucking minutes to run. He ended up in some rat-infested motel down in Elvis country.
Oh, pussy!
What is that?
Anyway, there are no Jews or Italians.
How's it going, Colonel?
At first, Tony really considered going on the lam, remember?
Got a safe?
Yeah, why? You want to pay in advance?
It's a little over 400K in there. I want you to hold it for me. If this goes down, I'm out of this area code. And my wife's gonna come in here once a week for an allowance. You don't ask her any questions, and you never, ever refuse her. She wants it all. You give it to her. But she won't do that. I'm a little smarter than that. There's money in overseas accounts.
I don't have the serial numbers.
You'll have them when the time comes. Not now. For your own benefit. So you're not an accomplice. I just gotta stay around a little while longer for the kids. Especially my boy. Once he's out of the house, the government can do whatever the fuck they want to do. Give me life, give me the fucking chair, whatever they want. What's wrong with you?
Maybe you should move out.
All right, in my condition.
Come on, baby. You're all right, baby. You're all right, baby.
Meds come in separately. She had to go to the doctor. Switch birth control.
As we know, the kids are still at the house, and there might be another kid coming too.
What I've been through, it changes the way you think. And holding my grandkids, your kids, in my lap, all of a sudden it's very important to me.
Now, does this mean that I think Tony would consider pleading guilty so he can enjoy the golden years, grandkids? Well,
I think for your husband to turn himself in, read this book, and reflect on his crimes every day for 7 years in his cell, then he might be redeemed.
one big difference among many between Tony Soprano and Johnny Sack is that Johnny Sack's wife was there for him 100% unconditionally. On the other hand, Carmela, it seems like by the end, she was pretty checked out.
What?
Johnny Sack pleaded guilty. It was just on the radio. He got 15 years.
Fuck yourself!
When I'm gone, you can live in a fucking dumpster for all I care.
What if they don't actually need Carlo?
Yeah.
About that snitch in Brooklyn, not Jimmy Petrillo, but the one that Agent Harris tells Tony about in the penultimate episode.
If it was real solid, you would have been warned officially by the Newark office. But my colleague in Brooklyn, the one with the collaborator, snitches implying the wheels have already been set in motion.
We're a couple years out from Johnny Sack's arrest by this point, a couple years after everyone found out that Jimmy Petrillo was a cooperating witness. So Jimmy Petrillo wouldn't still be in the know and have this information. And we also see that the FBI is listening to Tony and George's conversation about the current war and arranging for a sit-down.
Cafe Napoli.
George, it's Anthony.
Your fucking ears must be ringing. I just left your friend, the son, crying the blues over the situation between you and that outfit over there.
What if this is the FBI's real golden ticket and Carlo's almost a red herring of sorts?
Gotti's other mistake was not keeping his mouth shut. Yes, the jury believed Sam Gravano, but hearing Gotti on the secretly recorded audio tapes was all more than this courageous jury could ignore. And they decided to end the murderous reign of the man who said he wanted everything run a Cosa Nostra way.
Well, that's why I'm calling. I need you to reach out to the little guy.
He's not happy with Phil neither.
I know. You're not part of that family. You're basically retired. Everybody trusts you. What I'm thinking, you'd supply a neutral location. Guarantee everybody's safety.
I could do that.
What if they have everything they need, regardless of whether Carlo flipped at all? That's not to say that Carlo didn't flip or that he isn't working with the government, because he has a very big motive to, his son. But they may not need Carlo. To be fair, does anyone really need Carlo? And in the series finale, when Tony meets with Mink and Mink says somebody's giving grand jury testimony on something, this is after the sit down with Butchie and them, where they talk on tape about the murders of the 2 Ukrainian civilians and how they're looking for Phil.
We started it. We got a dead Gumar in Queens and her old Ukrainian father.
Sure enough, we have these 2 civilians, one who looks very much like Phil Leotardo, murdered. While we don't necessarily hear Tony on tape replying to Butchie and saying, yes, it was me. I was responsible for those 2 people getting murdered. One looks like Phil, the other is Phil's Gumar. So it's not too much of a stretch. That's certainly something for the FBI to pursue.
Hey, what does this look like? Look.
John Sacramone, my friend, I'm sorry to say, was an insecure guy. And he created a constant tension within his own family, which spilled over.
The FBI may very well have Tony on tape telling Butchie that he needs a location on Phil.
My price is you help us get a location on Phil.
I can't go there. Well, you do what you gotta do.
After the FBI gets the discussion on tape, we have the murder of the actual Phil Leotardo in broad daylight.
I gotta make a phone call. I'll meet you at the drugstore.
My price is you help us get a location on Phil.
I should get a 60-day supply of the platinum.
Oh, shit!
We know Patty Leotardo would have called the police, and we know there are multiple witnesses, again, in broad daylight. Plenty of potential civilian flag saluting motherfuckers. Overall, if the government has enough to secure an indictment against Tony Soprano from a grand jury, I think that they would have enough evidence to convict him at trial. And they wouldn't actually necessarily need Carlo. But that's my take. Again, this is a hypothetical. My prediction, Tony was shot the night of Holston's. So again, this is just a hypothetical.
One thing you can never say, that you haven't been told.
Thanks for watching. What do you think would be the verdict? I'd love to hear from you.